following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFangy coming to you with a review that is long overdue. And tonight we're going to be taking a look at my favorite character from the Transformers Beast Wars series, and we have here the Transformers Cybertron Trilogy Kingdom Voyager class as Dinobot, released in Wave 2 of the Transformers Kingdom line. This action figure of Dinobot is absolutely incredible, and it blows the last action figure that Dinobot was given by Hasbro out of the water. It's a vast improvement over the original one. I'd said in my previous review on Kingdom Rhinox that was one of the most disappointing figures of the Kingdom line, and Dinobot is arguably one of the better figures of the Transformers Kingdom line. So here on the front of the box, you got Dinobot in his beast mode of a Velociraptor. You have him here in his robot mode, and just like the original Beast Wars figure, Dinobot's tail can open up, and in the middle of it has a laser gun on inside of it. Here on the top of the box, this is an interesting thing about Dinobot. Even though in the Kingdom line Dinobot's officially being classified as being a Predacon, and from all the reviews I've seen and all the photos that I've seen on the internet, Dinobot does not actually have any faction logos printed on him at all. So if you want Dinobot to be a Maximal, you can do just that. I believe I saw years ago that during the Beast Wars line, there were two variations of the original Beast Wars Dinobot figure. One where he had Predacon logos on him, and another one where he had Maximal logos. So, because the Kingdom version of Dinobot doesn't actually have any faction logos printed on him at all he can be what he on both sides of the battlefield if you want him to be. I'm personally going to group Dinobot with the Maximals. Oh, then one of the reasons I love Dinobot is it's known as the hero's journey, in storytelling, or the hero's reform, as it's also sometimes referred to. Basically, in the Beast Wars series, Dinobot started off as an evil Predacon, but after he criticized Megatron, Dinobot was kicked out of the Predacons, and so, in order to survive, Dinobot forced himself to jump onto the Maximals and became a member of them out of the Maximals' own reluctance. And as the series went on, Dinobot became more and more of a hero, and ultimately he sacrificed himself to save a group of ancient humans from being in the Predacon's path. And yeah, Dinobot's death was one of the tragic of the Beast Wars cartoon series, and in the Transformers Netflix series, Kingdom Netflix series that was released earlier this year. Tragically, Dinobot was the only Beast Wars character who died in the Transformers Netflix Kingdom series. So I was disappointed to see that they decided to kill off Dinobot again. Just once, I like a series featuring Dinobot, have him survive at the end of the series, and have him be declared a full heroic Maximal in the end. But yeah, that's just my own opinion, because I just really enjoy the character of Dinobot. So here on the back of the box, you've got your official product photos. You got Dinobot in his robot mode and in his beast mode, and he transforms back and forth between both modes in 28 steps. So without further delay, let's get Dinobot out of his box and take a close look at him in his robot mode. Alright, now before we actually get into Dinobot's robot mode, one thing I haven't been doing in my reviews of the Kingdom figures is showing off the collector cards that you get with them. And that's because most of the ones that I've opened up have had cards with Dinobot on them. Yet incredibly, when I opened up Dinobot's box, the card that Dinobot came with wasn't him. It instead was Optimus Prime. And for those of you wondering, behind Optimus Prime, it shows Optimus Prime again in his robot mode. So yeah, for the collector cards that you get with the Transformers Kingdom action figures, Dinobot's card has apparently been the most common one to find. So it's cards of the other characters that are less commonly found. around, and I was just really shocked that I was honestly expecting, with so many Transformers action figures having the collector cards with Dinobot on them, that I was wondering, would Dinobot come with a different card, and I'm somewhat surprised, but at the same time not that surprised to see that Dinobot came with a card of a different character now. Dinobot's my favorite character of the Beast Wars series, and Optimus Prime is my all-time favorite Transformers character, so for Dinobot to have Optimus Prime and Imes collector card packaged with him is a real great excitement for me. So it's a little finicky trying to get it plugged into his hand. But alrighty. Here is Dinobot in his robot mode and armored up with his weapons, and I gotta say, I am absolutely enjoying this Dinobot figure. His head sculpt with the blue face and the gold helmet, I'm really enjoying that as well. The browns and gold, all the blue highlights all around him. This is Dinobot to a T. Even though this one did serve as somewhat of inspiration for his animation model in the Transformers Kingdom series that was released on Netflix. This looks like Dinobot just looks like he walked off the screen of the Transformers Beast Wars or series. And yeah, I just cannot get over how incredible looking Dinobot is. So for a quick size comparison in robot mode, here is the only other action figure of Beast Wars Dinobot that I have in my Transformers collection, and it is this guy. This is the Transformers Universe Classics Deluxe Class Dinobot figure that was released way back in 2009, and just like the original Beast Wars series and Kingdom version, this version of Dinobot, he comes with two weapons. The dinosaur mode tail opens up and becomes a cannon type weapon, and the missile that it shoots out actually doubles as the dagger type sword that Dinobot came with. Here on the Kingdom version of Dinobot, the tail does open up, and rather than actually shooting the sword out as if it were a projectile, unlike the deluxe class figure from the Universe Classics line, the sword just kind of sits there inside the tail, so you can use your imagination that it's a missile pointing out of it. But of course, you can also have it attached to Dinobot's head, and he can use it as a spinning dagger type weapon. In the Transformers Beast Wars cartoon series, Dinobot's sword was painted silver chrome. But in the Netflix series, it was done more as a metallic purple, which is what the Kingdom figure is. You're trying to go for. But if you want Dinobot's sword to look more like it did in the Beast Wars series, you can just paint over the purple blade with a silver chrome pen. But yeah, one of the reasons why I'm really enjoying the Kingdom version of Dinobot a lot more than the previous Universe Classics version of Dinobot is the paint job. This deluxe class Dinobot figure that was released back in 2008, Hasbro gave this version of Dinobot an entirely brand new, well, not entirely brand new. Basically, this version of Dinobot has the paint job that Dinobot was given in both the Transformers Dreamwave and the comic. I can't remember what publisher was published the Beast Wars comic books, but yeah, that's what this version of Dinobot's paint job is done with. Takes inspiration from, with the yellow and silver face and the lighter, more muted shade of brown used for his robot mode and dino mode. But yeah, the Kingdom version of Dinobot, it is a vast improvement over the Universe version. As far as gimmicks goes, Dinobot doesn't really have too many gimmicks other than his tail opening up into a cannon type weapon, and his sword coming out of it as well. The original Beast Wars Dinobot action figure, the tail, in addition to opening up, it actually had a spinning gimmick, and so, unfortunately, with each figure of Dinobot that's been released over the years, the Dinobot's tail weapon has lost a gimmick with each figure released. On the original Beast Wars figure, it had a spinning gimmick and the spring-loaded missile launching gimmick. The Universe Classics version of Dinobot only has the spring-loaded missile gimmick, and then right here on the Kingdom version of Dinobot, the tail weapon, the spinning weapon can store on it, but it just pegs into place and it doesn't spin. It doesn't has a spring-loaded missile launcher, so Hunter. So that's just a very minor gripe. But I did want to point out that, somewhat ironically, that each new subsequent figure of Dinobot, his tail weapon has lost a gimmick over gimmick. So that's just a funny thing to note. What about Dinobot? So as far as his articulation goes, his head is on a ball joint, so it can look up and down slightly. It can look left and right 360 degrees. It's got universal joints in the shoulders, so out of the box, they're a little stiff, but Dinobot's arms can go forwards and backwards 360 degrees. His arms can actually go all the way up, so if you wanted to, you can have Dinobot look like he's doing aerobics if you so desire. He does have a swivel joint in the bicep, hinged elbows. He does have wrist swivels, and because Dinobot's robot mode arms are, well, not his arms, his hands are the foot claws of the Raptor mode. He doesn't actually have dedicated fists, but he does have two hexagon-shaped 5mm ports, which is how he is able to hold his sword and his tail weapons. For articulation in the lower half of the body, Dinobot does have a swivel joint in his waist, but on my copy of Dinobot, it's not pegged into place properly, and so I don't know how well it's going to show off on camera. But if you look right there, the upper half of his body is swaying left and right on the waist joint. So that is a little concerning. And I'll explain why that is in a moment. His legs, the hip joints are universal hip joints, so his legs can go outward this far. So Dinobot can do the splits. Legs go full over that far. And unfortunately, because of how the back of Dinobot's pelvis is shaped, technically, if you want Dinobot's leg to go backwards, you do have to sprawl it out to the side a bit just to get around the back of the pelvis joint. But if you don't move it out to the side, then that's how far Dinobot's leg goes backwards compared to a normal position, which is, I believe, 1/8 of an inch. So, yeah, that's one joint that Dinobot doesn't really have access to. But for the other joints that he has, I think Dinobot does have a decent amount of articulation. He does not have a swivel joint in the hip, so that's one joint Dinobot does not have, his swivel joints in his thighs, but he does have hinged knees, and his feet can go upward and downward at the ankle, and he does have ankle rockers. So if you wanted to get Dinobot into a sprawl-legged position, he does have the joints to do that as well. Now, the reason why I said I'm a little concerned about how wobbly Dinobot's waist is because that wobbly waist it's not as bad on the action figure that was repainted and retooled from Dinobot, which I already reviewed a couple of weeks ago. So, for one last size comparison in robot mode, here is Dinobot next to Beast Wars Grimlock, who was released as an Amazon exclusive in a 2-pack with Earth Mode Mirage. And this was true in the original Beast Wars lineup. Grimlock was a repaint of Dinobot, so pretty much the only difference between these two figures is the different head sculpts. Dinobot's head sculpt is based on his original Beast Wars figure and his appearance in the Beast Wars series. And in the Netflix series, they really did Dinobot's head sculpt some justice. And of course, there's Grimlock's head. So yes, as far as which version of the mold I think is the better version, I honestly cannot say which version is better. Even though I've had Grimlock out of his box for more weeks than I have Dinobot, who I just opened up right now. Overall, I enjoy Dinobot more as a character than I do Beast Wars Grimlocks. I don't really have much attachment to Beast Wars Grimlock. I said in my review of him that I mainly got of the 2-pack he came in from Mirage. But one nice thing about opening up Grimlock first is that now I know how the figure transforms. Transforming Dinobot shouldn't take me too long to do off camera. And unfortunately, if you guys were wondering, you cannot close the two tails together because of how they don't actually angle at 180 degrees. But yeah, it is nice seeing a Dinobot around, and I love the fact that he's now a Voyager class figure and not a deluxe, because in the Beast Wars series, Dinobot was almost as tall as Rhinox was. He wasn't as muscular, but Dinobot was one of the larger Maximals of the Beast Wars cartoon. So without further delay, hey, let's stop looking at I'll stop doting about Dinobot's robot mode and take a look at him in Raptor mode. Alright, and so here is Dinobot transformed into his Raptor mode, and I gotta say, this is pretty impressive looking. It is much closer to his appearance in both the Netflix and Beast Wars series than the previous Dinobot figures, so here he is next to the Universe Classics Deluxe Class Dinobot figure. Here, and I just messed it up. Bear with me for a second here. Got it fixed. Be careful. So yeah, here is Kingdom Dinobot next to the Universe Classics Dinobot figure from 2009. And in robot mode, the Kingdom version of Dinobot was almost twice the size of the Universe Classics version. In Raptor mode, the size difference isn't as prominent compared to robot mode, and the Raptor heads are actually almost the same size. So, unfortunately, comparing Kingdom Dinobot with the Universe Classics Dinobot figure in Raptor mode, because the sizes are almost the same, it is unfortunately an example of how Hasbro and Takara Tomy have been downsizing Transformers action figures. But yeah, all in all, I love the appearance of the Beast Wars Dinobot figure. I said this in my interview with Beast Wars Grimlock, but the one minor gripe I have with the mold is how the Raptor claws are shaped. On the official product photos, it shows them angling down like this, and in that angle, it almost looks as though Dinobot's broken his wrists. Is having the claws like that. The claws on a Velociraptor are believed to have been more in a position in line like this. Is where they could grab onto central prey if necessary, but the way they came out here on the Kingdom figure, it's not as impressive looking. But yeah, all in all, I just enjoy the shade of brown plastic that was used on Dinobot. This is the Dinobot figure that I wanted this figure to be. Granted, Dinobot doesn't have stripes that are as prominent, but if you hold it up to a bright enough light, they are noticeable. Oh, especially here on his face between his eyes and his jaws. But yeah, I just really enjoy how Dinobot came out. One nice thing is that the tail is straight; it's not wavy, so it doesn't look like he's waving his tail around. So that's pretty great looking. One thing that I will admit the Universe version of Dinobot has over the Kingdom version is that Hasbro actually painted the claws bony white instead of leaving them unpainted. So that is just one feature in the paint job department that the 2009 Deluxe class figure has the 2021 Voyager class figure beaten out. And yes, you heard those dates correct. The last action figure of Dinobot that was released by Hasbro before the Kingdom version was released in 2009, 12 years ago. 12 years ago, so yeah, it's been a really long time since we got an action figure of Dinobot. The Universe Classics version of Dinobot, along with the Deluxe Class Cheetor action figure from that line, which I showed off in my review of Kingdom Cheetor, those were the first two ever Beast Wars action figures to be given modern day releases. Aces before the Hasbro went full blown Beast Wars in the Generations line. And I lost my train of thought there for a second. But yeah, Dinobot, along with Cheetor, was one of two Beast Wars characters, is what I was trying to say. They were the first ones to get modern day updated action figures done in the what's now going to be known as the Generation style of action figures. But yeah, the Kingdom version is a vast improvement. One nice thing and I said that the Universe Classics Dinobot has the Kingdom version beat up by having the claws actually being white. But one thing that the Kingdom version of Dinobot has this version beat out, even though they both have sculpted tongues, the Kingdom version of Dinobot is the only one whose tongue has been painted red. On the Universe Classics version, the tongue was left unpainted brown plastic. So that is a nice thing to see over there. an improvement of. This is just a minor nitpick, but one thing I wish they would have done was given the more reptilian eyes on the Kingdom version of Dinobot. Granted, that is accurate to his animation model in the Kingdom series released on Netflix, but it would have been nice to have seen those more slitted pupils in the eyeballs. And for one last size comparison in robot mode, here is Dinobot next to Kingdom Beast Wars Grimlock. And as you can see, because the only different sculpt-wise between these two figures is the robot mode head, and in Raptor mode, the only difference between the two of them is the paint job. And to this day, scientists and paleontologists still don't know exactly what types of skin colors that dinosaurs actually had, and more fossil evidence is pointing to most dinosaur species, including the Velociraptor, as having had feathers covering their bodies. So, unfortunately, for those of you who want to have anatomically correct looking dinosaur, or because it is now accepted that the Velociraptor did have its body covered with feathers. Unfortunately, Dinobot in Hasbro and Takara Tomi's quest to make modern day generation style Transformers figures look like the original figures that were released in previous lines. Dinobot is unfortunately he suffers from from a historical standpoint in that this is what people thought the Velociraptor looked like back in the 1990s. So yes, Dinobot is like some of the like the dinosaurs portrayed in the film series Jurassic Park. Dinobot is a reflection of what people used to think dinosaurs looked like and what was in a previous decade the accepted theory as to what dinosaurs look like. Whether or not we're actually ever one day going to get an action figure of Dinobot that transforms into a proper Velociraptor that is covered with feathers is unknown at this point. But fans of the Jurassic Park film franchise are also asking the question if they're ever going to get to see dinosaurs in any of the Jurassic Park films that actually have feathers on their bodies as well. So for my final thoughts, do I recommend getting the Kingdom Voyager class Dinobot action figure? Absolutely, I do. You cannot go wrong having this version of Dinobot in your Transformers collection. One thing that's been one of the make it or break it deals with Transformers fans and collectors is right here on both of his thighs. Dinobot has a pair of faux eyeballs since the O's are form his robot mode chest, which is supposed to be the entire Velociraptor head. But don't let those extra eyeballs on the hips deter you from getting Kingdom Dinobot, because he does have a pretty decent amount of articulation in Velociraptor mode. His jaw can open and close, and when the jaw is closed, his head can go upward and downward ever so slightly. There's quite a few joints on the arms, so you can get Dinobot into almost like a slashing motion where he's attacking an enemy. Not much articulation in the legs due to how the hips are locked into the sides of the torso, but the legs can go forward and backwards quite a bit, and he does have a little bit of ankle articulation, so if you want to get him into a more of a dinosaur pose, you can angle the legs like that if you desire. And of course, he still has the same claws from Robot Mode that are now being used here for Raptor Mode. But yeah, I am enjoying Dinobot so much, my brain is working faster than my mouth, and I can't quite get out the words I want to use to describe how incredible this figure is. So yes, I do recommend you get Kingdom Dinobot if you can get him. He is worth having in anyone's collection. So thank you guys all so much for watching the review to the end. This has been the TFN Geek, and until next time, you guys, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.